I worked with a couple where a husband had suddenly become withdrawn and emotionally unavailable. At the bottom of that pile, it was found by his therapist that he was excessively burdened by financial pressures and responsibilities. Earlier on, I spoke about my biggest stressors, really, those that cause me ulcers. It's bills. Now, their kids were in school full time, and this gentleman wanted to talk up to his stay wife at home about returning to work, but he feared hurting or insulting her, and he did not want to be seen as a controlling husband. Now, it is partially a stereotype, but mostly true. Most men don't communicate very well, and generally speaking, men struggle to discuss things such as pornography, addictions, financial trouble, anger, or depression. As common as poor communication may be among men, a stubborn unwillingness to improve is not without consequences. It can damage a man's relationship with his God, his spouse, his children, fiancé, friends, co-workers, name it. Now, men can go much deeper with their marriages, relationships. They can go much deeper with their parenting and with their careers if they learn how to open up and communicate about what's happening within them. Versus the other gender opens up literally about everything and anything, and so they can cope. For men, it's a bit difficult. But what is stopping men from communicating? We'll dive into this. Now, this is an important and insightful conversation this month of June, and apparently it is the Men's Month. Just yesterday and on Sunday, we were celebrating Father's Day. Now, join me today in the studio as I welcome Mr. Ephraim Ramwenge, Mr. Bosco Rabotogo, and Mr. Rumonji Kajenza to discuss the challenges men face in communicating and the impact this has on their relationships and personal growth. We'll dive into the reasons behind poor communication among men, the consequences of this, and how to improve the same. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning, Jesse. How are you?
Let me start with Bosco. Bosco just came from a trip. He lost an uncle or friend. Sorry about that. Man.
Actually, a cousin, a very dear cousin.
You lost a very dear cousin.
Yeah. And he died on Wednesday. But then by the time I got the news, I was in Musanze because nowadays I have projects I'm doing in Musanze. So I had to leave Musanze at night, then drive to Kampala and buried on Saturday. Then I had to drive back on Saturday night at 2 a.m. and reached the site the next day, the evening. So it has been a roller coaster for me. But that's life. That's life. But it was such an important person in my life.
You know, they say men don't cry.
Yeah, but they do sometimes. Okay, most times. It's just that people don't see the tears. You can just cry in silence. But sometimes even the physical tears come out. It's just rare. And I think that's the reason why we are talking about it today.
Bosco.
But on top of that,
Yes.
men don't normally compliment. I don't know why they fear to compliment, but I should compliment you for this beautiful studio.
Absolutely.
I think the best studio I've ever seen. Flowers to you, bro. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Bosco. Bosco, what do you think are the main reasons why men struggle to communicate openly about their struggles?
Whichever I'm going to talk about should be actually about myself, because that's the only way to understand these reasons. Sometimes they mean a lot to me, or I do things because I can't explain to people, you know. So mine, sometimes we come on the show and talk about abstracts, if I can say, without not talking about your personal life, and that's the easiest way to know about men. So why would I not communicate, or why should I not communicate? What are the struggles I go through? For me, it's about fear of how I'll be perceived. How I'll be perceived. For example, by nature, we as men, we are supposed to be protectors, or we are supposed to be providers, you know. And sometimes you don't want to show that you're failing, you know. How will the people know that you have failed? How will your family know that you failed? How will your spouse know that you failed? So in that part, you do as much as you can
to cover up. You don't want to. I mean, people are relying on you. Are relying on you. How are you going to come up and say, man, I failed? When everybody is looking up to you. So most men do not want to communicate because of that fear. You're fearing to be judged. You're fearing to be, now if my children are looking up to me and I say, hey, man, today there's no school fees. The whole chaos comes up. So if people are bottling up all that fear, and they just do whatever they can to remain relevant, or to remain resolute, if I can say. So that is the main struggle. It's just fear. Men are dishonest.
They're not dishonest.
First to themselves.
I think men have taken a lot of stuff upon themselves and thinking that they can handle everything. You know? It's high time that we accept that we can't handle everything and just have a support group. And one of the reasons why we do whatever we do is that we don't have a support group. I don't know if you have 2 or 3 people that you can run up to and tell them, man, things are hard. You know? So that is one way to curb that problem. Without a support group, without 2 or 3 friends of yours that you can tell, it's bad. But also when we have our women in our lives, women tend to think things different from us. You know? So if she's relying on you and you're telling her that this month things are bad and the other month things are bad, you keep on complaining. She'll be like, okay, there's no future here.
You spoke about a support group, which reminded me that there was this men's group that we had in one community. I remember, I think I have 2 groups. Actually, there were WhatsApp groups. They were with the title of Men of Valor.
Nice.
Those groups, I think, for 3 years, I have them in my phone. No one has sent there a single text. Not even to say, hey, what's up, Men of Valor? But Ephraim, why do you think men are not communicating about their struggles?
So like Bosco said, you want to talk about your own personal experience. I think first and foremost, it's the idea on paper of male friends makes sense. But in practicality, so there's a running joke I have with my people, that, and I think it also stems with our fathers and all these people we have in our lives older than us. Men only check up on each other. Like, I'll only pick up the phone to call Kagenza if there's a problem. Like, if he doesn't contact me, he's my friend, very good friend. If he doesn't reach out to me, I know he's okay. I don't need to know, like, I'm not going to pick up the phone, hey, are you doing okay? That's the psychology we have. And that's even just innate in us. There's a book I really love, and I read it, and it was one of those things where you read and you are like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And I'm sure maybe you guys know about the book. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And it talks about how Martians, which are the men, they only meet up to solve problems. And we see it even when women complain about mansplaining, and how whenever they come to us with a problem, we're always quick to fix. The same thing happens in our male relationships. I'm not going to sit down with a fellow man unless I'm looking for a solution. I'm not just going to sit there and talk about my problems, because at the end of the day, in my mind, I'm like, if I have a problem, I have to go find a solution. He mentioned how people are depending on you. And again, I keep cracking these as jokes, but there's truth to it, where if your woman comes to you, a man can never say he doesn't know, especially when it comes to these aspects of provision. If a woman comes to you and says, honey, where are we getting money this month? as a man, you cannot. If you want to maintain that level of security that you provide to the person you're with, you cannot in that moment say, I don't know. You can say, I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's a tough
It's
one.
just the reality. And I say this when you say, why don't men talk? It's because I think we sit down and we're like, okay, we talk and then what? And then what?
Yeah.
Are we going to get a solution? Are we going what's the point? Because at the end of the day, our problems need a solution.
Kagenza, isn't this a dangerous position for men?
It is, absolutely. And there's a story last week that drove the point home. A friend of mine, she's actually worked on radio in Kenya. Maybe you know her, Njambi Koikai. She was a reggae DJ and host. And on the day of her burial, she died of a type of blood disease or complication. On the day of her burial, her father committed suicide. And he was a retired ambassador. And I believe he was appointed into the diplomatic corps when she was, I think, 4 years old. And so he came back into her life when she was in high school. And so if you go watch the speech he gave at her funeral, or one of the memorials, he said, he regrets that he was not there for his daughter. Now, of course, I share this in all, humility and respect, but I can imagine a father going through that torment and pain, commits suicide when they're burying the daughter. Perhaps those were bottled up emotions, complicated ones, because the relationship between a child and a parent is very deep. And when you are confronted with the fact that you are not there, you are not present, you may have provided, but you didn't give what was most important, your presence, it tears you apart, So it is very dangerous, absolutely. That's why you find men behaving badly, grown men behaving badly all over the city. Perhaps they're dealing with things that they don't know how to communicate. So, yeah.
Is it a possibility that men can begin to break this cycle of poor communication and start addressing their hidden struggles?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm part of a group. We've been together now for 4 years. We call ourselves Brothers Keepers. Shout out to them. They were texting me, telling me they're tuned in. And one of the things we do is you have to be deliberate in checking in. We call it a check-in. And because, like you said, we were raised not equipped to express how we feel. So one of the tools we use is called sachet. Sachet is an acronym for sharing emotions, and it's a way that you can meet and share. For example, so it's an acronym: sad, angry, scared, happy, excited, tender. Those are like the key emotions. I use it actually with my children and my family. So when you check in, you say, Jesse, how are you feeling today? Say, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm tender, and you explain what is causing those emotions. So it sounds rigid, it sounds mechanical, but men need that, because in the absence of that, we can sit together for hours and not talk. We can watch a game, we can watch a movie, and the guy is struggling, The guy is boiling, he has no rent, or someone has left him, but you're together, you're hanging out. And then down the road, something explodes and you wonder, bro, why didn't you tell me? So if men can have a deliberate check-in, or ask an accountability friend, when you call me, before you talk anything, ask us to check in. How are you feeling today, Ephraim? Let's use sachet emotions. I'm angry or I'm happy. And so I think we need to retrain or re-educate ourselves, and definitely it's possible.
You mentioned that we were not brought up in a way that we can express ourselves. Who was supposed to play that responsibility?
That fundamental role is to be played by parents. Children don't do what parents tell them. Children do what they see their parents doing. So that's why I have 2 kids. My daughter is 8. My son is turning 5. When we check in, so because they're young, we print emojis corresponding to these emotions, and I'll hang them up on the sitting room. I'll call the family together and say, hey, let's check in. Even my son, who's 4 years old, because of the example that he can see his mom, his dad setting, he's able to say, today I feel angry. My sister did ABCD, or today I'm feeling happy. And I hope, it's my hope that, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, that will be ingrained in him. He'll have the capacity to express his emotions in a healthy way. Because men actually do express emotions, but in different ways. You just go to the local gym, you see a guy pumping iron. So this guy is going through something. Or punching a bag, you're like, this guy? Or you go to the pub. I don't go to the bars anymore, but I remember. You find a guy smashed, man. This is a professional. Good job. But he's, crawling home. Why?
On
There are
Tuesday.
things they're dealing with. That they need an outlet, and other things that people do.
Let me ask Ephraim. Ephraim, it's you that mentioned that some men meet and then what? Talk about what? It's a bit different from the school of thought that Kajenza brings together with his group. What do you call it?
Brothers keepers.
Brothers keepers, where they meet to check in. But I know, Ephraim, you so much a practical person. You're always looking for solutions to existing problems, or even problems that do not exist.
But by the way, that's they call that visionary leadership. The problem doesn't exist, but you're like, it might come up. Let me find a solution.
What role do you think cultural expectations play in men's reluctance to discuss personal issues like addictions or financial troubles? Like, it's not your business to know. This is just my space.
Actually, I love that question, because when you think about also us as Rwandans, there is this cultural aspect of, even if you are hungry, you are dying of hunger, or you have a problem, you go out and you present to the world that everything is okay, because that's just the culturing that we have been taught is the best way to present yourself. Where does that stem from? And I, as he was talking, I felt a bit of desire / envy. I don't know what the right word is to have that kind of circle of friends, because what ends up happening, and this is the reality, and it's unfortunate, that amongst our friend circles, we tend to end up competing with each other. And that's what I'm saying. Such a friend group is fantastic. So what I've noticed is that the only way for me personally to surround myself with people who look out for my best interest, they either have to be older than me or younger than me. But my peers, we are at a stage where it feels like we're almost competing with each other. So you find that to be vulnerable with someone and say, I'm going through this and this and this, it's almost like you're admitting. And okay, even if you don't have issues with admitting that you're going through these issues, it reflects in now what happens in your relationship with that person. And to find genuine men who are like, we are okay with being vulnerable with each other is very rare. Now, that's what I'm saying. The whole cultural aspect around being open and vulnerable, like I said, it's there. We know it. Present yourself to the world that everything is okay, despite what's going on at home. You don't bring your problems from home into the streets. We have been raised like that. Then you now add the reason behind, which is that you need to be careful of your next man. He will use your weaknesses and your challenges and your problems against you. And so you need to be very, very cautious. And so then for me, actually, it's even a question, because I'm very curious. How does one navigate that? Because I don't have the answer to that. It's something that I sit there and you have to, it's almost like you're playing. If you look at modular computers, you remove a piece, you add another piece, you remove a piece until you get the perfect computer. So you change the RAM and you change the hard drive until you get to what you feel makes sense for the output that you're targeting. My friend circle is like that at this juncture. I'm being honest. I add, I subtract, I add. I mean, if you're excusing yourself, then that's good. No, but I mean, the reality is that you wake up thinking this person is for me.
Right.
Then again, like I said, you'll have a conversation around these aspects of vulnerability, and then the same person will use that information against you. I mean, I don't want to put people's business out there, but I have a friend who took my past and used that as a reason to kind of, how do I put it? He wanted to justify his advice. and push the advice my way, even though I felt like his advice was misinformed. And his justification was, I did not know how to make good decisions. And I'm like, okay, is that somebody who's looking out for my best interest, or is trying to justify their position by using my own shortcomings against me? And so that's why I say, like, it's very rare to find quality friends, peers, who are not competing with you.
Who are men?
Actually, I saw it on social media. So, like you said, this month is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and they were saying that there was someone on, I think it was on X. Someone was like, that's why the day you learn how to cultivate female friendships is the day your life becomes better. This is a man.
Wow.
Yeah, in his mind, he's like, male friends.
Apana.
We need to engage that man.
He says once you figure out how to maintain healthy platonic female friendships, your life transforms as a man.
Bosco, let me just swing to you. You'll get that mic straight into your face. And I have known you for many years. You are a friend to dogs.
That's funny.
That's a good.
Literally dogs. You celebrate their birthdays. You do all these special events for them.
Yeah.
Do you sit there and say, my male friends have failed me, and so the best company I can have is dogs?
You see what he just said is actually true. If you can find a way to have female friends who are, platonically says, it's much better than men. On the other side, sometimes dogs are much more friendly than a human, because they are loyal. 100%. They even lay down their lives for you. But people normally don't do that, But I'm not going to compare a human being with an animal. I do love them a lot, but I cannot say that they're much better than humans. How we do that, how we develop that, or how we get into this whole mood of trusting or trying to create good relationships with men is what these two gentlemen have just said. Find a good support team, which is very difficult, actually, very difficult, and try to open up. Because I give an example of myself. There's a close friend of mine. We've known each other for so many years. So many years, we talk about anything, but we had never opened up, about our personal lives. And I think one time he was extremely hit, extremely over there, and he was like, you know what, I think let me just lay out myself and talk to this guy. And he opened up himself to me, and for so many hours, he was just crying. And I said, you know what, we actually need this kind of conversation a lot. And you see, one of the reasons that stops us from doing that is, again, we fear to be judged. I go back to the same thing. We fear to be judged. How will I look in front of Ephraim and I'm crying and I'm doing this? I thought he would think that, hey, this guy used to be macho, or used to be complete. He looks complete. He has a family. He has everything. How can he be into this? So that's the culture part, where we are so judgmental. I don't know if it's about a Rwandan issue or it's an African issue, but we are so judgmental, quick to judge when you see someone falling down. It's like when they say, when people come to church, they're supposed to be coming to be healed, but then they get even bombarded the more because of judgment. It's the same thing with men. We should stop judging people. We should just let people be themselves, talk to each other, and grow that bond. One example I can give out: the former CEO of M-Pesa, I think, if it was called Corimo or something like that. Bob. He had a group of men, and they used to meet every Tuesday to talk about nothing but just themselves. The same group of men were the ones that actually did everything on his barrel. Every Tuesday. These are his fellow CEOs, MPs. Okay, maybe they were bigger than that, but even within us, we should be able to have that kind of group. And what Ephraim just said is, he said that, in Rwanda, we compete a lot. If I see Ephraim driving a VX, I should also be looking for it. How will I come to him and say, man, I'm doing badly,
Yeah.
yet I present myself as someone who is doing well? So that competition is killing us.
Yeah.
We just need to open up and say, whether I should not be judged by my finances, I think I should be judged by my character as a friend. Look at me as a friend without millions on account or properties. Just take me as a friend. But the culture we have here is that the more you have property or the more you have enough, the more you get friends close to you. So like your property or properties bring friends together. But yet those are not those are not friends.
yeah.
You know? So we are looking at just how do I call it? Just it's a facial thing. You just want to show off that you're okay, yet you're not okay. So me and you will go back in the day and we talk quite a lot of stuff together. And one of the things that actually men don't talk about is sometimes when they get heartbroken by
That
or
one.
advice,
Yeah.
you know. But with close friends, you should be able to talk about these issues.
You know, I have one of my best friends who is been in the dating space for a while, and I would know that he's dating, he's seeing somebody, but never discloses a thing. I would just see him walk back into the house and go get out of the house, leaves, goes, tells me that he's gone for holiday with whoever, but I have no name. And then later I only hear from other friends that he's been going through a heartbreak and that he's actually cried real tears. But he's never been vulnerable to me.
Right.
And he can choose to go to the Airbnb, sleep there. The woman would never come to the house, never seen her, nothing. And this is a man being, quote unquote, a real man, to not disclose his own personal issues. But let me ask on this question, Ephraim. In your experience, how does poor communication impact a man's relationship with other men? And what steps can men take to build more accountable relationships with each other?
So, you know, what's communication? Now, so I grew up as a third culture kid. So if you know what a third culture kid is, you're born and raised in a country that's not your own. And so I was born and raised in Botswana. None of my parents are from Botswana. So I grew up not speaking the language where I lived. Like, it was not something that was easy for me to do. So I had to learn the language. Obviously, once you're not a person of that place, regardless of how well you speak the language, people are always going to laugh at your accent. That's why even when I came to Rwanda and I started learning Kinyarwanda and people are laughing, I have no issues because I was used to that. So whenever, even in Rwanda, when I speak my Kinyarwanda that's still limping, someone will say, you didn't say that well. I'll say, yeah, correct me. But if they emphasize that they want to make a joke out of it, I'll say, but did you understand what I said? They're like, yeah. I said, then I communicated. And that's why I said, like, when we sit down and we ask ourselves, what is communication? Because people like to say men don't know how to communicate. But I think it's just that sometimes people are not listening to what men are saying.
Yeah, true.
We choose to hear what we want to hear. I don't know if you've heard of love languages, and I think that for me is also one of the things that just opened my mind. I look at it as a business book. People are like, how do you look at a book about love as a business book? Because it's a book about communication, and communication is the fundamental tool for any relationship, even if it's between a business and its customer, right? When you understand that people interpret words differently, people interpret phrases differently. People interpret actions, gestures differently. You understand that actually men communicate. It's just that the people to whom they're communicating are not listening to that frequency. We have just talked about how women, if you can have platonic relationships with women, they're better friends than anything. And then Bosco talked about, obviously, the dogs. I don't know how one communicates with dogs, but I think you can. Again, because you can... Wow, okay. So you can tell, like, a dog cannot speak.
Yeah.
But there's a way you can tell that you and this dog have a connection. And I think what I would say, unfortunately, as men, because we have been so cultured from from a young age, we have learned how to communicate vulnerability and love and support using the female blueprint. Our mothers are the ones who showed us support. I mean, I laugh again. My relationship with my father, through the most trying time of my life, he would come visit me and he would be like, "You okay? You okay? Yes, yes." So, and I'll never see him for like another 3 months. And it's not that I didn't know he loved me. I knew he loved me, but that was how we communicated. And so the issue is that because I've been programmed growing up as a man, that love, the way I interpret love and support is through the voice of a woman. When my fellow man is talking to me about his struggles, I can't pick up on the signs. I'll give you a simple example. If you and I went for a drink, Jesse, and non-alcoholic because none of us drink, but we went for a drink and we are sitting.
Yeah, all of us. Yeah.
I mean, I think in this economy, beyond even just the morality,
is termed as if we are not men enough.
So you see, we sit there. Just on a normal day, you and I can have conversations on and on and on. But imagine, like, for example, let's take our last lunch. We are sitting there, and I personally, or you personally, avoid a particular topic. That in of itself is communication that there's something that's wrong. And so what I'm saying is that the poor communication cannot be put purely on the speaker, but also on the listener. And I think that has affected us significantly because men are not listening to other men as men. We expect if a man has a problem, he will come and say, Jesse, I have a problem. If your guy starts saying, man, I need to start going to the gym. What's up? Are you okay? I'm not saying going to the gym is bad. It's fine that you have a problem, but this is a guy you've known for, let's say, 10 years, and he has never gone to the gym.
Let me check with Kajeza. How can we change this programming?
Yes.
Because like Ephraim says, we go for lunch. I'm asking questions. And I said, no, put it off. Put it off. Put it off.
That's what I don't want to go there. And we all have those, those files we don't want to open. Let me give this example. I mean, many of us have invested in our careers, professional development. You do, you go to school, get professional certificates and so on. We add tools, knowledge and competencies, right? We're not born you were not born as a radio host. Maybe what you were given was the voice, but you had to add value, you had to sharpen your skills. Why don't we do that for areas of our life that we are lacking, like communication? For example, there's a 10-week class called Man Enough. It's a faith-based class done in different churches here in Kigali. It's a phenomenal experience. You do it, you meet once a week in a class of maybe 6 to 8 men. You have a workbook. You talk about everything from finances to, sexual disciplines to temperaments to, and it's an amazing course. When I see the men around me who've done Man Enough, they're better equipped in different things. It could be money, it could be relationships. And so, a simple answer is to say, go and train yourself, learn how to communicate, and especially at this age when you, with all the resources we have and everything, it's no longer an excuse to say, I don't know how to communicate, I can't tell my wife, you know what, I don't know how to, I can't afford to do that. I've been married 11 years now. We have 2 kids. There's too much at stake for me to sit back and say, I can't grow. I have to be deliberate, So we're both proactive in growing in those different areas. And the same way women also struggle with certain things, Yes, they're very good at communication, but they may struggle with other stuff. Maybe communication now goes into gossip and other things like that. So they also have their own challenges.
So gossip is what? Over communication.
You can call it, it's a polite way of saying that. Let me also quickly say, I don't agree that we should, to resolve the issue, we should be more friends with women than guys.
Yeah, same here. I don't agree.
That one is a slippery slope.
Very slippery.
It's a slippery slope,
It's putting a candle next to ice.
I like that.
No, I think actually for me, just to touch base on this again, when I sit down and I think about how I want to go about building my tribe, he says brothers who I can look out for and they can look out for me, because accountability is everything, right? I want individuals And when I say I want, I'm also trying to become that kind of person.
Yeah.
I want individuals who understand the gravity of the situation at hand. That if men don't stand with each other, if you don't have a support group, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What are you putting at stake?
Yeah.
When you look at statistics, you see 60% of suicides are men. So I think it's 69%, which is almost 70%. That's crazy. That's crazy. And then when you look at even, let's take the prominent ones that we know of.
Yeah.
These individuals are people you'd think have, by all intents and purposes, by worldly standards, have success. One was even a comedian, and I think that was even the ironic aspect of it. You're like, this person's life is geared around making other people happy.
Yes.
But this individual was so unhappy to the extent that they said, I can't do this anymore. And so I want people around me the same way I also want to be that person for them, to understand that if we are going to make this a thing, we need to understand what's at stake if we don't take it seriously. If we're going to say we're going to meet every Tuesday, we show up every Tuesday. Because if we don't show up every Tuesday, what does that mean for us?
Absolutely. If I may say, one of the things from experience, unfortunately, we don't get to choose that. Unfortunately, in life, you will get some of those things. You will never get perfect men. The same way I'm not a perfect man, so one of the things I am going through now is learning to love, grow, and support the men that I have in my life, and not create the men I desire in my head. It's not going to happen. So the sooner we lower expectations, maybe, but have some non-negotiables. So like in our group, we even assigned a kind of like a contract over time, because like you said, you reach a place where you say there are things that must happen. If we've been meeting every Monday, let's meet in person at least several times. I used to be dogmatic. It has to be physical meetings every Monday. Life is not like that. People are having kids, we're busy. So we say at least we can go online, but we need to check in every Monday. Then once a quarter, let's go for a retreat together. We go out of town. We maybe invite a guest speaker, come and talk to us about money or whatever it is. And so there are those key pillars. Everything else will find its way around that, And the last thing I'll say just quickly is temperaments. Personality types also impact communication. So it's important to know your temperament. If you just Google the four temperaments types, it's the easy one. Cholerics are the workers, highly driven, very motivated people. Melancholics like myself are the deep thinkers. These are people who are loners. They enjoy their own company. Phlegmatics are the laid back people, peacemakers. They don't cause a fuss. And then the sanguines, the talkers. My wife is sanguine. Sanguines need to learn, give space for other people to talk as well. So once you understand those mixes of your temperaments, you'll understand why there's a brother, a friend you have. They may be a melancholic. You try to call them, they don't pick up. That's a temperament issue. You get. So you need to seek them out. Maybe go to their house. Maybe when they're in a good mood, say, hey, I know your mood swings. Let's agree. If I call you, you have to pick up. Or at least text me and let me know you're okay. Because things like suicide, many of those things come also from temperaments. If you look at it, these are people who don't know, who are struggling with temperamental issues, and then it just becomes overwhelming.
Jesse, for me, I have maybe two ways to tackle that. One, the current situation we are in. All of us, we are older men. But the other aspect is building a new culture, building
That's good,
a new foundation.
Right.
Because for us, I can say our time is slightly going away for adaptations, to adapt to new things. Because after 30, I don't know if Ephraim is 30.
He doesn't relate.
No, but I am. I'm in my 30s, but I am not as old as the people at this table.
But after 30, the chances of adapting to new stuff is always difficult or low. So for us, the only thing we can do in our generation right now is to have a deliberate attempt to do things. The example I gave you of a friend of mine who opened up himself to me gave me an idea of also myself opening up to him. Because once you don't have someone who can trust you to do that, you will not open up to someone else. So now we have to have that deliberate attempt. If I need Jesse to be open to me, I need to open myself to Jesse. Let me tell him. because I could be actually opening up half of my problems to him, and he has more problems than me. And it's like,
Yeah.
if Bosco can say that to me, wow, let me actually open up myself to him. So, but if we are waiting for people to come to us, that might be very difficult to do. So, and also we must have a deliberate attempt to have time, because all of us here, I think we are people who have too much to do. You know, right now, tomorrow probably I'll be driving back to Musanze, and every after 2 days I come back. So don't have time.
Yeah.
But if you want to change something, you need to create time.
To be very intentional
To
about
be
it.
intentional.
Yeah.
If I need to meet Ephraim, even if I mean everywhere I have to go,
Yeah.
I'll have to call him, or I'll have to come and see him and say, let's meet. Because if we wait for time, at our age, I don't think that we have that time. But
Yeah.
we must create time.
Absolutely.
We must create time. We must be vulnerable. We must show vulnerability to people that we want them to change as well, to create that tribe that he's talking about.
Yeah.
But at the same time, let's teach our kids now, our boys,
Yeah.
how to communicate
Yes.
and how to be reasonable men, because all this
Yeah.
is an upbringing. Sometimes
Yeah,
to us it could be an upbringing. I've never seen my dad. I grew up without a dad. I grew up with a mom. Same as him. He said the only voice he had when he was growing up or being a man is his mother. And majority of our generation are like that. So
Yeah.
now, as fathers, as intentional fathers,
Yes.
I'm not like him. I don't have any child, but I'm hoping to get.
That's
But I
perfect.
must be intentional
Yes.
to show that my son has to be vulnerable. It's not a sin to be vulnerable. It's not being weak
Yeah.
to be vulnerable, because that's what we think. If you're vulnerable, oh, you're a weak man. How can you do that? How can you cry? How can you tell me your problems?
Yeah.
But that is the voice of evil telling you not to do that, because the more you bottle such pain, the more you become very problematic. And that's why you find some of these men very problematic, because they're having a lot of pain in their hearts.
It's on Father's Day that my colleague Michael was showing me the different number of men who were happy to have a moment with their children. Because one, for certain reasons, they are denied access to their children, and men have these kind of pains they never talk about. Michael, who is a very young father, he became a father at 23 and now has 2 children. And because of work, he stays far away from the children.
Yeah.
He was telling me how he normally gets depressed,
Yeah.
lots of anxiety within his body because he cannot see his children. And men have these kind of problems,
Yeah.
you know, every day, and they might not even know how to express
Yeah.
what is happening inside of them. That just the inability
Yes.
to see their child or even to talk to their child makes them feel a certain way and causes them to make decisions, some which are very regrettable decisions.
Absolutely.
Men have problems. Men are isolated.
Oh, yeah.
Men are dying in silence. And what I wanted to ask is of you, Kagenza, poor communication, how could it be affecting men's relationships, their role as fathers and husbands?
Absolutely. I mean, I was just looking at a study from University of Nairobi, 2014 study, and it says 9.2% of urban families, fathers are usually missing a family meal at least once a week. Yeah, like they don't have at least once a week meal together, the family, as a family. So this shows you the like you said, just to build on your point, we are too busy, but that's also not an excuse. When you children, for example, let me talk about the impact towards children. Children need more communication at some times than adults, right? Because children they're very vulnerable. They're going through a lot of things, so they need time. They need probing. It's not enough to just say, I bought my daughter a gift, and I buy them. That's one thing that absent parents do to compensate for their absence is spoiling their children with stuff. That can never replace deliberate communication. Children need probing. How are you doing today, Penzi, my daughter? Let's check in. What are you feeling? And the other day, for example, she was telling me she was at the saloon, and there was a boy who had a smartphone, just sitting next to her, and he was watching a movie. And so she was telling me what she was going through. This is a movie about a girl who's 16 years old, and she had so many questions. And in like 20 minutes conversation, she's 8 years old, but she had so many questions about life. If I was absent, she bottles that up. Or she will assume certain things because the culture is also putting a lot of messages out to our children. And this is another point I wanted to make. We need to be very careful when we expose our children to cartoons, movies, and so on, because the Western culture, let me call it that, it's mainly a liberal culture that's being imposed upon our families. The definition of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. Now we're being told, marriage is very, there's a spectrum, and so all these cultural messages, the parent needs to be there to be a filter and then to transmit the right values. And then on the women's side, I chose not to answer that. So I asked my wife last night, what do you think? When there's poor communication, how does it affect you? And she just gave me one example. She said, as you know, for women, if you want to enjoy intimacy with your wife, the doorway to intimacy is communication. If you want to have good, enjoyable sex consistently, you need to communicate. The woman is not going to open
What
up
is
to
that communication?
You. Yeah,
I see your eyes are like now interested. He's like, I want to
Now
know.
we're getting to the gist of it.
You can register for my masterclass, maybe. I mean, that I think the regular, transparent communication, checking in, because when there's emotional distance, when there's conflict, when there's an erosion of trust, that affects the way the lady, a woman, is going to open up to you. There's a great book I'll recommend called Love and Respect. The love she most desires, the respect he desperately needs. And so many couples are actually in a vicious cycle. The wife is not respecting the husband, not serving the husband food when he comes home, or showing those types of affections, and he's getting frustrated because she is not feeling love, because he's closed up. He comes from work. How are you doing? I'm okay. He sits on the TV till nighttime. So her self-esteem goes down. She begins to question, is he seeing someone else? Is he not satisfied in me? And so that cycle goes on. A practical way to deal with that is, for example, institute a date night with your spouse, maybe once a week, if that's a lot, but maybe once every 2 weeks. Let the date night be a time of communication. You can use these sachet emotions. Say, babe, today I want to check in with you. I feel sad about this. I feel angry about this. Trust me, in a couple of months, if you do that consistently, you'll thank me later.
Does that apply to him and me? We're not married.
Communicating?
Like
No,
that.
no. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Oh my God.
I'm asking for my brother.
Our time is fast spent. We are at the 9 o'clock hour, but I'll give you just a couple of seconds, Ephraim, for your parting shots. How do you think we should communicate better?
It's a very, very, very hard question, but I think there are two aspects of communication. There is the speaking and there is the listening, right?
Yeah.
What I've learned normally is that listening, and this is funny, ironic coming from Ephraim. I know someone will be like, anyone who knows me will be like, Ephraim is talking about listening. But it's okay. Times have changed. I've learned that good speaking, to be effective with how you articulate your thoughts, you have to be able to first listen. And the reason why is that listening creates an aspect of empathy. It grows the empathy engine in your mind. So you better understand the person you're having a conversation with. In the context of a family, in the context of a relationship, in the context of friends and friendship, once you understand somebody and their thought process, even the way you talk to them will adjust to their language, the emotional language, right? And so for me, that's how I'd say we can become better communicators. We just open our ears.
Listen well.
Just push to listen more. It's something that has helped me a lot, by the way. just taking time to just keep quiet and just listen to somebody, especially the people I'm with. I start to hear the thought process, and that for me allows me to better articulate what's going on the inside.
Bosco, parting shots, men who are suffering and silent and lonely, what should they do to come out of that cage?
Like we've been saying, we just need to find that one or two people in your life as men to speak to. Otherwise, you can die in silence. So for me, what I've done is that I'm starting to speak to different men, friends that I know that will not judge me. If I come up with this issue and say, man, I'm going through this, I'll not be judged. They'll let me know, you can do this, or we can pray together. Some are not even Christians. By the way, we have this Pharisee thinking that it's only the Christian men who can understand.
No, Christian men have problems too.
So just get a man who has a good heart to listen to you and to speak to you as a fellow man. That's the only thing. Otherwise, we'll keep having problems.
Kagenza, men, how can we set an example for our children to be better communicators?
Invest in yourself. When a man gets better, it's better for the whole family. So sign up for Man Enough. That's a practical challenge I'm giving men. It's offered at Christian Life Assembly Church. It's not a very religious course. Sign up for it. After, let's have a conversation. For couples, there's a course called Ndoa. It's a 10-week, Ndoa means marriage in Swahili, 10-week class, marriage enrichment class, offered at Mavuno Church. Sign up as well. It's not an overly religious course. It's phenomenal, and you'll be the better at the end of it for doing it.
On the 8 at 8 today, difficult conversations for men. I think you can agree with me that we should return and have part 2.
Would love
Yeah,
that. Yes.
anytime.
Yes, you've been awesome this morning. Let's get into the news.
Royal FM in the news this hour.
Nongeye kugikaze nanone mu makuru